Hello everyone and welcome to today's lesson. In this video I will be discussing Python variables and values, and I'll be using Jupyter Notebook as my code editor, which is a personal preference. You can use any code editor out there, but if you are a beginner, I would like you to start out with Jupyter Notebook. For one thing, it is beginner friendly than other code editors out there, and it comes with some pre-installed modules that you may likely use when working with data. And if you decide to go into data aspect of Python. And now, since I have mine already up and running, I'll simply navigate to this new year and then click on this because I'm starting out a new Python code that I want to use. So I will name it as variables and values. Let's say variables and values. I simply name it as variables and values, then I hit rename. So a variable in Python is actually described as a storage box inside a computer memory, or you can see it as a label with associated value. And also you can, if you want to think more of it as a kind of a reference to a certain value. So for example, let's say we have a value 7, a number 7 that I want to store in a variable named numbers. So we can do it using the assignment statement, which simply consists of a variable's name, an equal sign, and then the number or the value that I want to store. Let's say we are naming our variable number. Let me say numbers, and this is the variable name. Then I now set it to, let's say we are storing 7 in it. This how to achieve now a variable name in Python. This is the variable name, this is the equal sign, and this is the value we are storing it. In this case we are storing numbers, and this is why I name it as numbers. So whenever I want to get access to this value number, I can simply type out the variable name, which in this case is numbers. And then if I run this code, of course we are going to see that the output will be this 7. So I run it around that, yes, 7. So this is an assignment statement, and which consists of, like I say, the numbers, the name of the variable, an equal sign, and then the value we want to store in it. Like because our name is number, and then I can, if I want to change the value here, I can simply type it and delete the 7 and then type another one 7. Now if I run that again, you see that the number has changed to 9. So this is how to assign variables or value to variable. You can, this line is basically saying that Python should assign the value 7 to the variable numbers, or store the value, Python should assign the value 9 to the variable numbers, or store the value 9 to the variable numbers. You can store some other values in it as well. For example, let's say we want to store another value. No, let me call it, we want to store a name of a country in it. Now I'll call it countries. Countries should not be assigned a value. Let me say Portugal. Okay, Portugal. Now if I want to see this, I can simply say, I can simply type Portugal. I can simply type countries, and then run the code. Yeah, this is output Portugal. Or I can put it in the print statement, print built-in function, print countries, print countries, and I run that Portugal. The difference is because before there was an output, or there was a quotation mark around it. Now there's no more quotation mark. That's just the difference between typing just ordinarily and then putting it in the print statement. So this is very good. This is a way to achieve naming a variable in Python, assigning value to a variable in Python, and storing values in variables like this is good, so that in our code, whenever we want to make reference to this value called Portugal, we simply type out this variable countries. And of course we can change it. It's not that we can actually change it to another country. For example, if I want to change it to Argentina, I can simply say Argentina. So if I run it again now, this value will be changed to Argentina. The output here is now Argentina. So this is how we do it. And what we are doing here is we are storing strings inside a variable. String is simply a character. It's a sequence of characters that are enclosed inside single or double quotation mark. We can use single quotation mark, we can use double quotation mark. Here we are using double quotation mark. So whichever one that comes easier and faster for you, you can use it. That is, you can use whether single or double quotation mark. In Python, whatever that is in the double or in a single quotation mark is referred to as string. And we can also use this one here. What we did there is integer, assigning integer to the variable number. So we can integer also can be, it can be this very example of integer is positive. We can have negative or zero integer. So, and we also have some other values that we can store in a variable, like we have booleans, and also we have floats, and also we can store other built-in Python functions like dictionary and tuples and the rest. So let's see how we can also store another integers as well. Let's say negative integers. In this case, I will just shorten it to x as the name of our variable, assigning it the value of, let's say we say negative integers, and let's say negative 77. And then so if you want to make reference to this value 77 here, I'll simply type out x and then I run the code. Now you give me the output negative 77. And again, we can still change it. Like I said, it can be negative, it can be positive, and it can be 0. So let's say we have zero integer. It can be 0, and that is it. We can have 0 integers like this. If I run it, it will still give me 0. So, and again, I say we can also store a value like floats. Now a float in Python is simply a decimal point, a number with a decimal point in it. We can also refer to them as floating point numbers. The difference between float and integer in Python is the decimal point number. Any number in Python that have a decimal place is known as, that have a decimal point in it is known as float. For example, if I say x, for example, let me say x, and I'm assigning it now to let's say 2.0, 2.01, and I now run the code. I enter and then type x, run that. You see, you give me 2.01. So this means it is a valid code, and we need to, and whenever we see this kind of number, we refer to it as float or floating point numbers, because they have digits in it. So in this float, you can round it to any number of digits after the decimal point of your a number of digits after the decimal point. For example, let me say I have y, and I'm assigning it the value of let's say 7.9843, 7.9, okay, 7.9843, and now say, let me say, give me y. Of course, it will give you the output is 7.9843. So what if we want to round it? We'll put it into a built-in function called round. There's a Python built-in function called round that we can put in the value in it. Say round x, I mean round y. So this is 4 decimal places. We want to round it to 2, and then I'll say 2, then close the bracket. Now if I run that, you see this is 7.984. This is how we use float, to work with float in Python. And float, we normally use it in when it comes to monetary value. So when we begin to, in the future, some of my next videos, I'm going to talk about how we can build a project like using the Django to build a web application or an e-commerce site that involve conversion of money or monetary value. So we'll store it in as floats. So that is how we do. And also we say we also have booleans. Booleans or you can simply refer to them as bools. They are binary variables that can take the value of only the true or false, and you pay special attention to the way they are spelled. They are spelled with capital letter T. For example, you can say true, true, like this is how you spell. You see, Python has highlighted that it is a Python reserved word, or a Python special word in Python. And also the false will also be capitalized. In the initial will be capitalized. You see, it has changed. So if I if I change this to small letter, you see nothing happened. That means it is not a result. It's not a keyword in Python. So the false and then the true are referred to as Boolean values in Python, and with uppercase starting as their initial values start as uppercase. So we normally use them to find out truths about our code and then make logical statements. For example, we can say we can have a statement that says, let's say x equal, let me put it in a string and say 7 greater than 9, and then I say x. So let's see what the output says. You only print out 7 greater than 9. Yes, this is because it is string, so you are expecting it to return to you as just a string. But what if I remove the quotation mark and then run the code? You see false. Of course 7 is never greater than 9, rather the reverse is the case. So this is how Python will make the decision and then compare it to before it gives you an output. So in my next video when I'll be talking about decision making, we may be using this a lot, and some other areas we are going to use them as well. And again, let me make another example here and say 4 less than 5. Let's say 4 less than 5, and then we say okay, let me save it in a variable. This time around name it y, and I say 4 less than 1, then I say y. Let me run it. True. This time around it is true. 4 is actually less than 5, and thus the reason why we get the answer as true. So this is how we store values in variables. And now what if we want to convert from one type of variable to another? For example, maybe we have integer and want to convert it to float, or we have float want to convert to integer, or strings that want to convert, and things like that. Yes, trust Python. It's as flexible as that. We can equally convert all those. We can convert from one type to the other. That is the beauty of Python. We achieve this using some built-in functions like the int and this int, and also we have another one like the str, and also others like float. Yeah, with the help of these built-in functions we can achieve those conversions. Now you may probably have guessed what this will do for us. This will convert any number we put here, or whatever data we put here, into integer. For example, if we have the value 79, let me say 79.0, which is what? Which is a float. By putting it in this function, this built-in function called int, it will convert it to an integer, which will now be 79, and then the 0.0 will be removed. Okay, let me comment this out and then run the code. Comment out, and now let me say print and put it in the print function. Print, and yes, okay, yes, print like this, and yes, now I run the code. Okay, seeing unexpected error passing was the error at line 3, and here, okay, yes, that is it, correct. This is 79. Now the 0.0 have been removed. This is how we make the conversion. Now I will leave this as an assignment for you. All you need to do is to put, for example, type a string here, or sorry, type an integer here, it will be converted to string. Or you type a float here, it will also be converted to string. And if you type another integer here, or if you type a string here, it will convert it to an integer. I mean, if you type a float here, sorry, if you type an integer here, it will be converted to float. So what it means that whatever function you call like this, it is that the output will be the word that is written here. As you see, this is float. Whatever I put here will be outputted as float. This str as string. Whatever you put in, whatever I write in this open bracket, in this bracket here, it will be outputted to you as string. Now you need to take note, it is not, it's generally you can convert from one to another freely, but there are some certain conditions that you may not be able to convert from one certain data type to another. But it's kind of when you see it, you know it. But so in your practice as an exercise, do it and let me know. Put it in the comment box below and let me know which one you were not able to convert to. So then we'll move on to, which is how can we determine what type of variable what type of value we are actually dealing with. Earlier we tried to make a decision. We try to check whether this is a Boolean value, a Boolean that can be converted or it can be printed out to us, but it shows a different something where we actually put 7 greater than 9 in a quotation mark. We did something like this. So if you want to know whether this is a string or anything else, there is another built-in Python function called type that we can use to tell us what type of value or what type of data this is. Okay, pardon my keyboard is actually a very nice one. I'm not familiar with that really. So all right, let me copy it and okay, I'll cut that and put it here. We can actually put it this built-in type function will tell us what type of data is this that we put in it. Whenever you want to determine what type of data you are dealing with, you simply type that data or that value inside this type built-in function, and I run that. You see, it says str, which means it is a string. We are dealing with string. So if you want to really see another output, we can use a print built-in function, print like this, and then I close it here. And now I run it. You see, it's a class str. The class is nothing but this is telling you that Python is basically an object-oriented programming language, and that is OOP. The concept of OOP may be sometimes challenging to newcomers, but in my subsequent videos I will very much discuss that and make it simpler for you to understand the concept. So basically everything is object in Python, and this is why it is returning to us that this is str. Go ahead and use the typing function to determine what we have done so far. You can type x here. Maybe you may type like, see, type x. You may put it in the type here, and then check to see what type of value it will tell you that it is type, and then you wrap it in the quotation mark in the close bracket. So if I run this code, it will tell me whatever it is that is the answer, but I'm not going to run it for you. I want you to practice it all and see what you get. And again, now we'll move on to how we can actually name our variables. Earlier we started with a naming pattern that I use numbers and countries in my naming here, and then later I switched to just shorting form of all these things. In your code you may want to really name your values a good name, a name that is very identifying, like as we said that variables are labels that can make reference to, so you need to name them in a way that a name that is very descriptive, so that whenever you want to use such value stored in it, you should be able to know or go for exactly with the type of variable you are looking for. Just as I started earlier, look at the way I name one here. I say variables underscore and underscore values. This pattern is known as a snake case pattern. This is a way when you have to name, when you have more than one words, you separate them using underscores, and then there's another pattern called horse case. That is, you after the first when you have more than one words, after the first one, the subsequent words will start with their uppercase. For example, if I want to still name these variables and values here, I can type variables and okay, and values. Yes, this is how I would name it without the underscore. Capitalizing the initial of the next of the subsequent words. So after the first word is in lowercase variable, then the next word is and. The A will start as uppercase, and next word is values. The V start as uppercase. This is how you name it. Now, to make it more simpler, I will give you. Let me show you some other ways, other rules that you could follow, and see how you go. And I have them written somewhere in my file, which I have just copied, and I'll paste it here for you to look at them. So let me change this to Markdown, as I'm going to use it to show you the rules that I've copied, and I'll paste it here. So let me run that. Now, these are the rules you follow when you want to name your variables and maybe functions as well. You see, these are the rules you follow. We talk about the snake case and uppercase for. I want you to go through them, or you can simply check on Google. Google's search how to name variables in Python, or the rules to follow in Python. But the special one I want to emphasize on here is this number 3 that says avoid using Python keywords and built-in function names as variable names. Example of such built-in function is the one that we have been using since the print, and we also use string str. Also, there are some other keywords like floats, like as we have said earlier, or integer. So you avoid using them. In that case, if in any case you want to name something string and you just don't know how, maybe you are short of that moment, you don't really know what you want to name it, you can simply say str or string 1. Once you put 1 here, it is no longer a Python reserved word, and or for example, input is one of Python's reserved words, which you cannot name it after, but there is something like this. So since it's a reserved word, you can short it to ip1, ip, or just ip, or ip1, or ip any digit, or any number you want to include it with. So for you to see some of those built-in words, you can go to this website, which is a Python documentation, or you can for handy reference, you can simply type help. There's a function, Python built-in function called help, and you run that. Yes, you follow what it says here. You say okay, I'll skip all this and go to this third one, this last one. I said to get a list of available modules, keywords, symbols, or topics, type modules, keywords, on the rest inside this help. So we are looking for available keywords. We want to know the available keywords in Python documentation, or the Python reserved words. So I'll simply type keywords, and I enter that. So this is the list of the Python keywords. If you want to get more, want to know more of what each keyword does, you can simply type the name of the keyword here, and then it will give you what a brief down or a example of what it does. For example, if I type finally here and I hit enter, it will show me exactly what it does. And for example, if I type print here, as we have used earlier, okay, for example, if I type pass here, it will tell me what exactly the pass will do. So that is it. You can go ahead and practice it, and in my subsequent videos, you don't need to actually memorize all these keywords, because in my subsequent videos I'm going to be using them a lot, and you are going to also be using them. And once you get familiarized with them, as you are practicing, you see that it becomes second nature to you. So, and in my subsequent video I will explain more some of them as we code along. Just please subscribe to my channel and like my videos, share with your friends. Thank you. Bye for now.